Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of the Strength for Your Purpose podcast. We have been rolling along here week after week with some awesome interviews. I hope you have found them as valuable as I have. If I've said this once, I've said it probably 1,000 times on the podcast here. Sometimes I feel like I'm doing this selfishly because I just want to learn from some of these people and learn these things myself. But I also absolutely love sharing it with all of you out there who are listening, watching, interacting, however you're taking this in. I want to thank you for that. And today, on today's episode, we have another one of those fantastic interviews that I'm really excited to kind of talk shop with this gentleman, as well as share this information with you. I am joined by Peter Koch, who is a safety management consultant for Maine Employers Mutual Insurance Company. He's worked there since 2003. You might know them as MEMIC. Peter began his safety career as a snowmaker and ski patroller at Sunday River Ski Resort, and it was there where he first connected fitness, performance, and workplace injury prevention. At MEMIC, his mission is to make workers' comp work better with compassion, trusted partnerships, and relentless commitment to workforce safety. Peter's an instructor with the National Ski Patrol Eastern Division, holds current certifications in tower rescue, fall protection, wilderness rescue, the Society of Professional Rope Access Technicians, and is an OSHA authorized general industry and construction standards outreach instructor. So Peter, welcome to the podcast. You got a really cool sort of modge podge of experience and certifications and things that you bring to the table. So welcome. And I'm really excited to chat with you today.
Thanks, Phil. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to be on here. You know, when you're doing that intro, I was thinking the same thing. Like, I'm a little selfish. I want to interview you too, because you got a pretty cool background, and what you're doing with WorkFit Maine is pretty awesome. So maybe we'll reciprocate this someday. I think that'd be fun.
Let's trade some interviews. I'm all for it. Yeah, let's go.
Right
let's go for it. So just to kick us off here, Peter, tell us a little bit more about who you are, what you're doing now, and a little bit about the way you've weaved all of your passion for the outdoors and recreational sport and things like that into the workplace safety component that you work in now.
Sure. So yeah, who would have thunk that starting a career as a snowmaker, I'd get to work for an insurance company doing workplace safety, but it was actually a pretty good spot to start. So it's not like some of the dangerous jobs that are out there, but it certainly can be a pretty challenging place. And I saw a lot of things that happened, a lot of good things, a lot of not so good things, both at Sunday River and at a couple of the resorts that I've worked in the past. And it just got me moving towards a place where I saw connections between, how fit I was versus how fit other people were versus, what challenged me in the workplace from an injury standpoint when there were moments where I was almost injured, or I knew I was close. So I backed off a little bit, and it took me a couple days to recover, but it didn't go into a reoccurring injury or something that took me out for a while. So,
sure.
Through all it, you talk about the weaving through. So as I went through all these different positions with the ski resort, I ended up having the opportunity to work for MEMIC. An opportunity appeared in early 2003 or so, where they were looking for a safety management consultant for the ski areas. So I'm like, I was the risk manager there then at Sunday River, and I was thinking I could do what I'm doing for Sunday River for more than just Sunday River, because they were looking at ski areas across Maine, Vermont, and New Hampshire at that time. And now we insure for workers' comp only, because we're a monoline insurance carrier. We insure resorts across Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and then down into Maryland and Virginia as well. So expanded a little bit, looking at where those ski areas are.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think anytime we can blend our passions in something that maybe we think can't necessarily be a career into something that's a fulfilling career for us, personally, and for the people that we're working for. That's a home run right there.
Yeah. And it was kind of cool. Like when I was working at Sunday River, we had some opportunities to work. So a ski resort is very much like a small city, especially when you have something as large as Sunday River or a Killington or a Sugarloaf. You've got
Sure.
everything from just your basic mountain operations, so snowmaking, ski school, ski patrol, lift operations, and all that, to housekeeping and lodging and food service and
Mm,
wastewater treatment and plowing and everything that you can imagine kind of fits within the resort. So you
yeah.
have all these exposures that your workers have to manage. And at some point, some will do better and some won't do better. And then
Mm,
at the time, we were managing some injuries with our housekeepers. And Maine, it's not a secret, has always had an aging population with the workforce. We're probably, I think we're either the oldest workforce in the United States right now or pretty close to it. So
yeah. There we are.
it right now we're fairly old, and back when I was working at the resort, we had quite a few I won't call them aging people, but they were older than your 20s, and
Right.
housekeeping is a very difficult job.
Sure.
So as you started to look at, we had workers coming in with shoulder injuries or back injuries or wrist injuries or neck injuries, and we started thinking about, so what's going on? I mean, you can't change the job too much. Like a bed's a bed, a vacuum cleaner is a vacuum cleaner. You're going to be bringing as much laundry as you can. There's certain things you can change about the job, but really what you can do is help prepare the worker a little bit better. So
Sure.
honestly, one of the things that we did at that time was help them learn more about how warming up and a little bit of uh, dynamic stretching and movement before the shift, micro
Mm,
breaks during the shift,
yeah.
and then hydration and nutrition outside of work and inside of work, how that all those things can help make you, I won't say a better worker, but make you survive the work a little bit better
Yeah.
going forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Making all those things a little easier to accomplish. Um, yeah. No, that's crucial. So one of the things that popped into my head, Peter, as you were saying that is, I wonder if when you were a snowmaker at Sunday River, if you ever thought you'd be talking about the physical preparedness of a housekeeper
No,
at a ski resort.
not at all, not at
No.
all. But I'll tell you, the fitness part happened right away. So
Yeah.
I got to the resort. I was supposed to be a patroller, but I interviewed. I was going to go for an interview for the job. I was looking for the patrol department. As I asked for directions, the snowmaking manager was giving me directions to patrol, and he's like, "So what did you do before?" Like, well, I had run operations for a small ski area down in Western Massachusetts for a while. I said, "Oh, did you make snow?" I said, "Yeah, I made snow. It was one of my jobs down there." He's like, "Oh, well, I have a job for you. So why don't you come interview with me first, and then you can go to patrol when the mountain actually opens." So I started working for snowmaking then,
Mm,
and I started with second shift. I got assigned to your kind of your mentor, who at the time, John Sullivan, who has since passed actually, kind of a giant of a man. If you can imagine Yukon Cornelius with the big beard and kind of
sure.
crazy hair. He was the guy that I had to follow, and I got handed my helmet. I got handed a headlamp, and he said, "Follow me if you can." And I basically chased him up and down the hill all night long.
Yeah.
And at the end of the shift, he looked at me and said, "I think you're going to do okay." But I was
Yeah.
exhausted at the end of that because you had to be fit. I mean, I had
Mm,
no idea how truly fit you needed to be to do a job like that at a resort like that. I had come from a very small ski area with
mm,
just a few hundred feet of vertical instead of looking at thousands of feet of vertical or acres and acres of snowmaking to have to manage. So
sure.
fitness came in pretty early, but I never thought that I would be managing workplace safety for housekeepers and fitness for housekeepers, especially when I started.
Right. Yeah. It as you said that, I was thinking about just fitness in general for the workplace, and one of the things that I found is working with a lot of people who have more of a labor intensive job. They work in a lumber yard, or they're in the trades, or whatever the case might be. Insert any physical labor intensive job here. And a lot of those people who deal with things like back pain or knee pain, which are probably the more common things that people in those or that line of work deal with, always say, well, I'm active all the time. You know, you're treating those people, you know, and you start talking about what they need to do to fix the problem that they're having. And yeah, you know, it's just so funny because I stay so active, but a lot of them have that mindset because they're doing something physical that outside of it, they don't have to do more than that, because I'm lugging and lifting and walking and up and down stairs all day. And to your point, your whole job was climbing mountains, right? and climbing up and down the mountain and managing the snow. But you needed to kind of prepare yourself for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And on the flip side, I think people that sit at desks need to prepare themselves for that too. You know, there's some level of physical demand in one way or another on the body, almost no matter what you do all day long, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's our director of ergonomics, Al Brown, has a saying that, you know, I've latched onto over the years, that people that you work with in the workplace are industrial athletes. It doesn't matter what job you're doing. So you could be working in the lumberyard, you could be a laborer on a construction site, you could be administrative assistants in an office setting, you could be a computer programmer who spends days in front of the computer screen. There are all different demands that you have on your body. And it's not like working or doing something that's fitness related. So you might be active. Yeah, you might be fairly active, and your muscles might be sore after working, and your muscles might be sore after sitting at a desk all day. I know when I'm driving for my job, going from place to place, when I get out of the car these days, my muscles are pretty darn sore.
Sure.
And if I don't take a little bit of time to manage that, it's just going to keep getting worse. But like you said, the preparation for those jobs, even the job to sit at a desk, and you might not think that's taking a lot of fitness. Well, it is, because your body still needs to provide oxygen and blood and nutrients to make everything work. It's got to hold you up. Your posture has to be correct. And if you stay in that static posture for a long period of time, things don't work well for a while. I mean, you know, the listeners out there, if they're thinking about that, think about, you might have had this experience where you're dead exhausted and you go to bed and you end up sleeping in the wrong position, and you're kind of like locked up there for a number of hours, and you get up and you feel like someone's run over you with a truck because you haven't moved. Right. And your body is just trying to limber up and get things flowing and ungelled again to get going. And the older we get, the longer that takes to ungel, and the larger effect of that static posture and sometimes awkward posture has on us.
No, you're exactly right. I think one of the big misnomers out there in this field, and I'd love to hear your take on this a little bit. But one of the things I say all the time is there is no such thing as perfect posture, because if we stayed in the tin soldier position all the time, the minute life required us to not be in that position, we could be headed for some trouble.
Yeah, you're right on the money. I love that. So there is no perfect posture. You're right. Even when you're setting up a workstation for that ergonomic neutral, you're not really asking people to stay in it. Like I talk to folks, I've got it set up perfectly. You're right, but you've never moved from that position. So it's not going to help. Like again, Al coming out with this part, like the sit stand workstation used to be the key term there for a while. And now really the whole idea is it's dynamic, right? So there needs to be a dynamic change in your posture and your movement patterns in order for your body to be able to accommodate the length of time that you're going to be doing work.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And I think that's a piece that a lot of workplaces, especially in the more sedentary type work, there's always going to be a degree of, I personally think, I hope not. I'm working to change this statement, and I know you are too, Peter. In the more labor intensive jobs, there's always going to be just more risk for sort of preventable neuromusculoskeletal injury, right?
Sure.
Injury or pain in your muscles, tendons, ligaments, joints, nerves, things like that, just because of the nature of the work. A little more risk there. But the trend overall for workplace injury has gone down steadily over the past 7 to 10 years. But the most preventable causes of workplace injury and lost time are still the top 3 causes, the top 2 to 3 causes of workplace injury. So we've done a real good job with offering things like sit to stand desk options and things like that. But I don't think we've done a very good job showing people how to manage themselves within that setup.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And if you kind of think about it and go back to that comment that you had made earlier about the people that might be working in those more dynamic and physically demanding jobs, that they tell you when you're treating them, but I'm active all the time.
Right.
Yeah, you're active all the time, but you're not actually doing the things that are preparing you for the activity.
Right.
You look at an athlete who's working, it could be high school level, college level, Olympic level, World Cup, doesn't matter what it is. They're training the skill set, like when they're skiing for World Cup, but when they're actually preparing to do that, they're mimicking some of the movement patterns, but they're doing other things to prepare their body to be able to deal with the forces of competition.
Sure.
So it's not like I can't take a kid and just have them play the sport the entire time and have them be prepared for competition. We have to do other things in order for them to be better prepared. So that's a connection I'm hoping that folks can make a little bit. And it's tough. You get tired. You get, you finish one of those jobs and you figure, all right, now I got to go walk, or I got to do something else to help prepare me for the next day.
Right.
Not an easy thing to do.
No, it's not. But I love that. I love that analogy that you use, because one of the things that I see a lot working with those folks is, and this is with everybody actually, regardless of if it's an injury related to work, although in some ways all injuries are related to work, because if you work, no matter where you got hurt, it's going to affect your ability to do what you're doing on a daily basis. But our bodies they're master compensators, so like your example of competitive downhill skiers, there are certain muscles in their like in their hips, let's say, that are not the primary drivers of the position they need to be in, or even the primary drivers of the shifting in the slalom to get to the next gate. But they are way more likely to tear an ACL on that slope if those small stabilizing hip muscles aren't working the way that they're supposed to be working. So a huge part of what they do is not just work their quads and their glutes and their hamstrings, but work those small, tiny stabilizing muscles, so that when they use those big movers, they're not using them in a way that's gonna hurt themselves. So same thing if you're an electrician and you're in funky spots all the time. If you don't have good small stabilizing muscles, your big muscles that move yourself in that position probably work great. They're probably strong as anybody's, but the things that help stabilize you there and get you out of some of those positions probably need some attention, so that position's not going to bother you.
Yeah, totally. It's a really good thought about those small stabilizing muscles. We talk to ski instructors and patrollers, so their biggest exposure for the most part is going to be fall while skiing. And it can happen for a number of different reasons. And you can talk about terrain being the cause of the fall, but honestly, when you back it up a little bit, if I'm employed as a ski instructor or a ski patroller, basically you're employed as a professional skier.
Yeah.
You should be able to manage just about any terrain that's out in front of you. So if I fall when I'm skiing and riding, a couple of things have had to happen first before I hit the ground. And one of those is I might be going too fast for the environment, like the terrain that's out there and the conditions that are there, for the physical and mental capacity that I have at that moment. So if I haven't done a lot of the pre-season work to get me in shape, then when I get first out in the slope and I'm feeling pretty good, because I did a little bit of it, I did a lot of cardio and I feel okay. Like my blood's flowing really well, but I haven't managed some of those. I haven't managed the core activators. I haven't managed the stabilizers that are going to keep me upright and allow me to manage balance from side to side and react in those instantaneous moments when I lose balance. So if I lose my balance when I'm standing up and I'm not moving forward or backwards, I have a little bit of time to compensate. But when I'm traveling 15, 20, 30, 40 miles an hour on a pair of skis and I start to lose my balance, I don't have any time to react. And if I haven't cleared that pathway out neurologically and I don't know how that's going to work, then I'm done. Like chances are you're going to hit the deck. And if you don't hit the deck, then it's more luck than plan at that point in time.
Right. Yep. Pizza French fry is not going to help you in that situation.
No, it's
right
not.
now.
It might be good in the hospital afterwards, but it's not going to help.
Right.
Moment, right?
The comfort food to get you through the fact that you just blew out a knee. Pizza French fry will work fine, but not on the slopes.
Right on.
No, that's fantastic. So yeah, in that, I this is something that popped in my head as you were saying that. So when you're working with these ski resorts, right? The first thought everyone's going to have is exactly what you're talking about right now. Someone not being prepared to be out there on the slopes working in some capacity for the resort. But here's a fantastic question. I'm calling it a fantastic question because I'm excited to hear your answer, not because I think I'm coming up with this amazing question. How many similarities are there between the people that work outside on the mountain and the injuries they suffer versus the people that work in other areas of that resort? Like how much overlap do you see there in those resorts that you work with?
So there's actually a ton. And the modifier between your folks that are working as a patroller or a ski school person or as a snowmaker or a lift operator versus excuse me, someone working food service or someone working in housekeeping or administrative, the modifier is velocity. So right when I'm traveling on a set of skis or I'm walking down a very steep hill as a snowmaker, and I get into an awkward position where I have to compensate for, right? And so if you think about that, I might get too far outside of my center. Like my base of support is now too far outside my core, my center of mass, and I start to fall. At speed, I need to actually exert more energy to pull myself back. And so depending on where I am, I might be putting, I'm putting a ton more energy to try to do that. And I could have an overexertion or a strain or a sprain, or depending on that position, it could be an ACL or an MCL, or I could extend a shoulder dislocation, something to that effect.
Sure.
So take that to your mechanic, right? Who's laying down underneath the piston bully or the groomer and trying to fix a track or do something else. And he is in that really awkward posture, turning a wrench. He might have a similar shoulder injury to the skier that fell or had a pole planted a little too hard or a little too far forward and jammed that back. So you've got a velocity impact injury versus say an overexertion injury, but you're having some similar results from that. So obviously the impact is going to give you a different injury result than say overuse or an overexertion, but you're still using the same muscles. You're going to have a similar muscle group that gets injured, and the same preparation that the individual skiing or riding needs to do can translate into the same preparation that the patrol or the housekeeper or the mechanic or the food service person needs to deal with.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that just speaks so well to the fact that no matter what the bullet points on your job description are, how physical or not physical it is, we've got to prepare our bodies for it. And sometimes you might be preparing your body for life outside of it. right? Like in the case of that person that does more static work at a desk or something like that, we need to move our body because 8 hours or so of our day, it's not moving as much as it needs to stay to stay healthy. So no, great. I'm glad there was a connection there.
No, there definitely is a connection there.
Yeah.
And you talk about that again. I'll go back to that comment of well, I'm active all the time, so I don't need to work out or become more physically fit because my job does that.
Sure.
Well, it's interesting. I got to work with a woman. Her name is Dr. Delia Roberts. She had worked for Selkirk College in British Columbia, and she developed a program called Fit for Snow, which managed performance and injury prevention for resort employees, and specifically lift operators, ski school, and patrol. And she addressed both the physical fitness part of the job as well as nutrition and hydration. So there's this beautiful connection between how all those things would work together. And they are so symbiotic. One cannot either work well or one will break the others if one is a little too, is not being managed well.
Sure.
And so what she found, some of the same comments, like the patrollers are like, well, I work out all the time. I'm skiing all the time. Well, she did some interesting studies around heart rate and found that the majority of the time, patrol, ski school, and especially lift ops, their heart rate never went high enough to be in that workout range.
Sure.
So you're not really addressing some of the physical demand needs that you would do if you were actually working out as part of a fitness program for a sport or for your job.
Sure.
So that idea of I'm always active, yeah, great. But you're not active to the point where you're going to get better fast enough, because you will be more physically fit at the end of your season than you are at the beginning of your season. But you're not going to get there as fast unless you actually do something inside the season to increase or maintain fitness levels that you're bringing into the season. You could actually decrease it depending on what your job tasks are during the year.
Yeah, for sure. No, that makes perfect sense. It's it's not a one thing. We can't isolate things like that. We really have to. You got to take the whole person in the entire picture into the scenario. And the whole idea behind everything that we're talking about so far, Peter, is that prevention of all of it from the get-go is the key, because it can get pretty convoluted trying to tease that out as the year goes on, right? So,
sure.
And by the time you do tease it out, maybe you're already hurt. So working on it ahead of time is the key for sure.
It totally is. And then you throw a comorbidity into it where you have a pre-existing injury or you have some other health issues, and all of a sudden you are at greater risk of injury, even at a fairly sedentary job. So that could be super challenging for you.
Yeah. No, it is. There are way too many variables out there. So controlling all of the ones we can through a prevention, a multifaceted prevention program is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, it's funny. So I was talking with, for one of the episodes of the podcast that we have at Mimic, the Safety Experts podcast, I preparing for the new year, I sent a note out to all the safety management consultants and asked them, what would be, if you could choose a New Year's resolution for your policyholders, what would it be? And so Al Brown was perfect. His New Year's resolution that he wishes could happen at all employers that move material would be stop putting stuff on the ground. So keep it between the knees and the shoulders so that you can actually limit the exposure that you have. Because sometimes you can't change how much you have to lift, but you can certainly change where it resides.
Yeah. Or even where you position your body to move it from where it resides to where it needs to go.
Yeah,
little
absolutely.
little changes in that can go a long way as well. That's perfect. So, and that's actually a great segue to this next. I want to switch gears a little bit
Sure.
on you here, because one thing I think that'll pop into some people's minds when they're listening to this is, oh, I know Memic is a workers' comp, insurer. So, um, what is it that they do beyond just offering the plans? And we've obviously heard a little bit. They're working a lot on prevention for
Sure.
people. So what is it that you do beyond, you've talked a little bit about the ergonomics, you talked a little bit about what you do specifically for helping people prepare the body for their work at the ski resorts. But what other types of things do you offer those policyholders at your company to make sure that they don't have to file a claim? And actually, before you even go there, one thing I want to point out is a company like yourself helping people not file a claim isn't just saving you money, isn't just saving Memic money, but anytime a company has an employee go out of work from a workplace injury,
Yeah.
aside from the costs they have associated with changes in their workers' comp insurance that might come down the road, and still having to pay that employee whatever the workers' comp insurance won't cover for them, they have to pay for all the production lost by that employee being gone by everybody else, which totals up towards, sometimes, I think the most recent statistic I saw was $40,000 if that person goes and gets medical care, if they need to go get medical care of any kind. So that could just be like a doctor's visit. That prolongs things long enough to jump that cost up to about 40,000 per workplace injury. So, people like Memic aren't doing this just to save themselves a buck. It actually, aside from the workers' comp insurance part, it actually saves the companies potentially tens of thousands of dollars by putting these prevention programs in.
Yeah, that's a really good point that you make. And it's a point that not many either business owners or supervisors and managers realize, that when someone gets hurt, you have the direct costs of the injury. So I've got someone who gets hurt, I blow my back out or I blow my knee out. I go to the doctor, we have physical therapy visits, we have surgeries, we have lost time lost wages that get paid.
Right.
And depending on who you're insured with, that might be all covered with the exception of a small deductible, or it might be all covered without a deductible. So,
right,
out of your pockets, really only the premium that you pay the insurance company. But if you really start to look at what that injury costs, there are a huge number of indirect costs that are associated with that claim. And that's where that number that you're coming up with comes from and totals. So you could even have a small, let's take it like an ACL. Someone blows out their ACL and they have to go in for surgery, and they're light duty, or they're out of work for a few weeks and they're light duty for a number of weeks after that. The cost of the claim can run anywhere from $20,000 to $60,000 depending on their age and what has to get how significant the surgery is and any complications.
sure.
So great, shoot the middle. Let's call it $30,000 for that particular claim. All right, perfect. Well, claim happens. A supervisor's got to come and attend the person. So that's time out of their day. You have to do some sort of report. That's time out of the HR person's day. The individual's now broken. They can't do the job that you hired them to do. Who's filling the production space that they just vacated?
Sure.
How long is that going to happen? Well, you can pull someone from another department to fill that in, but then who's filling their spot? And today, I haven't spoken to an employer yet that has enough staff.
Yeah.
Doesn't have enough staff. And for those of you out there that are self-employed or are doing the sole ownership and proprietorship thing, how many of you do you wish you had to do the rest of the work that you need to do?
15 plus. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And then if there's any damage to equipment or other loss of production that happened, we see injuries, everything from the boo-boo knee that happens to the something that causes back surgery, to amputations, to other things, that really significant stuff that happens. When that happens, production shuts down. Like you might have someone could get their an appendage caught in a machine, and all of a sudden you've aside from the horrific nature of that particular injury and what happens to that person aside, there's no more production happening on that machine.
Right.
And anyone else who happened to witness or manage that is not working at their full potential, guaranteed.
Oh, for sure.
So you start adding up all those numbers, and the statistics show that someone who's out of work for an injury, those indirect costs could be anywhere from 2 to 10 times what the injury actually, those direct costs actually are.
Yeah.
So they could be substantial. So that $100,000 back claim that the workers' comp paid for is actually going to cost you, the employee or employer, more in the long run than it's going to cost the insurance company. So like you said, there is a win-win here for an insurance company to help its policyholders figure out different ways to enhance their safety program, develop a safety program, and keep their employees safe. And that's kind of what Mimic, not kind of, that's what Mimic does, and is really what we are built on. So we have a mission, and you read part of it in the bio, and you attribute it to me, but really it's Mimic's mission. So our mission, part of my mission for Mimic, is to make workers' comp work better. And so overall, making sure that the employers and the employees can navigate the workers' comp system well through trusted partnerships, compassion, and then a relentless commitment to workplace safety. And that's the part where I come in, and actually it's not just me, it's our underwriting department, it's our claims department, it's our communications department. Because if a claim comes in and there's a potential safety issue that is identified when the claim happens, I might get a call from the claims person saying, hey, did you know that this occurred? And I would then give a call out or a shout out to the policyholder and try to work with them to figure out, how do we prevent it?
Right.
Or on the getting ahead of the game side, right? So we're pre-loss, not post-loss, going in and helping policyholders pre-identify where those exposure areas are, and then what we can do. So you think about some of those, some of the certifications that you listed off for me, and they are quite varied. They don't really fit with your typical insurance guy. And the majority of our loss control staff that work for Mimic are not out of the insurance industry. They come right out of the industries that they are going to work with. So if you're working with the construction groups, you have a construction background. If you're working primarily with manufacturing, you've had a manufacturing background. Healthcare, you're hiring nurses. Recreation and hospitality, you're getting people that have worked in those areas that have a strong safety background. So those certifications in fall protection, you start thinking about construction, and you said the top 3 injuries, right? Or top 3 causes. So it's going to be some sort of lifting, pushing, pulling injury from an ergonomic standpoint. It's going to be slips, trips, and falls to the same level, and then fall from a height, which are going to be some right up there in the top 3 to top 10 causes of workplace injury.
Sure.
So working with companies to develop fall protection programs. So, and helping the employees understand the reasoning behind it. Not just, hey, here's a harness, here's your anchor, here's your connector. Now use it because it says so in the policy, which only gets you so far.
Yeah.
So spending time educating, spending time helping employers understand, and then providing resources. Because my philosophy here, and a lot of, the majority of the loss control folks there are like, I don't want to be your sole source of information. I kind of, don't give a man a fish, teach the man to fish, right? So that's the philosophy behind this. So can I give you enough information where you can take it and run with it and build your program? You've identified where your risks are. I can be here as a resource for you and help you where you need to.
Yeah. No, you hit the nail on the head with that one. Prevention. We know that prevention is the best medicine, and there are certainly things we can do to control as many of those variables as possible. And yeah, those three you mentioned, like you said, are probably 3 of the top 8 or 10. The other 3 that are still super high up there that I think we can continue to do a better job putting in slightly more personalized prevention programs for workers is in the exertion, soreness, and pain, like that overuse, soreness, and pain category, and the sprains and strains category. Sprains, strains, and tears, because those two or three, I can't remember off the top of my head if that's two categories with a lot of combinations or if it's three that I mentioned there. But the three you mentioned, those two or three I mentioned, are 6 of the top 10. Six of the top 10. And as you said, for 6 of the top 10 reasons for these claims to happen, these lost time injuries to happen, to be preventable in so many
Mm-hmm.
cases. We've got a lot to ground to cover, but there are people out there doing it like yourself, Peter. So I think we're in good hands.
Yeah, well, and with you too, because there's a lot of good information coming from you, and hopefully you're seeing people not just on the post-accident side, but you're seeing people from the prevention side as well, and helping them get prepared for some of those stressors that they're going to see in their lives, either when it's preparing for a particular task or job or sport, or it's just getting a little better prepared as we age, because that's going to take a toll on you too if you don't do so well.
Sure. Yeah. With all the folks I see, if they already have something active going on, I work all of those folks back to prevention. So we don't just get back to where they were pre-injury. We get a little better, because 9.9 times out of 10, they had some things going on that led to that. So we need to get them better than they were even before injury. And then all the workplaces I work with, it's all prevention. The entirety of the program is prevention based. So it's it can be an uphill battle sometimes, Peter. we don't live in a world that always puts a lot of eggs in that basket, but people are starting to find that that's the way to go, for sure.
I think it is. Another one of my colleagues said the other day to me, and this rings true for just about anything that we do in the workplace: take care of your employees and they're going to take care of your company. And
yes.
That's part of it, right? So it's not just that they're happy, and happy is one thing, but if they are well taken care of and you can provide them some strategies and some opportunities for them to be healthier while they're working, it's going to go a long way to help them stay healthy while they're working.
Right.
A little bit of education is great.
For sure. And it's got to be that top-down approach. You got to have not only the understanding of the safety, but the why, more so than that's just how we do things here. Because anything that happens to us at work doesn't stay at work when we clock out. And if we get hurt at home, it doesn't stay at home when we clock in. So
it's going to carry over.
Right. All of those things are always interacting and potentially limiting what we're doing to enjoy the life that we work so hard to build for ourselves and our loved ones. So
it's a good analogy that you have there, right? Because some people live to work and some people work to live. And either way, like if you get injured on either end of that, on the outside or the inside, it's going to affect what you love to do. So if your passion, and I've met guys and gals that their passion is totally work, they're completely committed to this and this is what they do. Well, go ahead and go shovel snow here in Maine and blow your back out. And then what are you going to do for the thing that you love? Or vice versa, do the same thing at work. And now you might love to hunt, or you might love to spend time with your kids and go hiking, or you might, whatever it is that you love to do, even if it's just to pick your newborn up and you can't do it because you only got one wing because you dislocated your shoulder or your back hurts too much to do it. Those are moments that you're never going to get back. And if we could prevent it with some preventative care and preventative management and some education, more power to us. Let's make that happen.
All this stuff is much more than a cover your butt scenario for everyone involved, and it's much more impactful on their life. So that's great. I've got probably like 5 more things running around my head, Peter. So I think we're going to have to either have you on again, exchange interviews, whatever we got to do to talk some more, because I could talk about this stuff all day. But I got 2 more questions I want to ask you. But before I ask you those questions, I just want to give you a moment for for you to let people know how they can find you, maybe learn more about you, learn more about Memic. Maybe there's someone out there who wants more of these, services. How can they find more about what you offer? And please, by all means, plug your podcast as well, because if anyone else out there is listening to this and nerding out a little bit, go listen to Safety Experts, because that's you'll get even more of that.
Thank you for that. So if you're interested in Memic, so one of the great places to go is just memic.com. So www.memic.com, our website, and you can find a ton out about us. If you're a policyholder, there's a bunch of resources that you have access to through memic.com. Or you may have an assigned loss control consultant. So if you want some resources, if you're looking for something, you can reach directly out to your safety management consultant. And if you don't have one or not sure if you have one, you can just give Memic a call and or send us a question through our Ask the Experts through memic.com, and you'll be able to get connected with somebody. So that happens all the time. People might not have an assigned loss control person because we only have so many, and we insure quite a bit of the work population of Maine, and then getting larger outside of Maine too.
Sure.
You can send us questions through the Ask the Experts at memic.com email address. Then, if you're looking just to get a hold of me, the easiest way to do that is through the podcast, actually, is through podcast@memic.com. And so we drop an episode every 2 weeks. We try to hit on topics that are safety related, but it can be anything from leadership, because leading a company is a key part of making sure that safety works at your company. So we see a relationship between safety, quality, productivity all the time, and leadership kind of encircles all of that to make sure that happens. Yeah. So podcast@memic.com is a great way to get a hold of me, or you can go right to memic.com/podcast, and you can find the Memic Safety Experts podcast. Or if you wanted to, if you're on like Stitcher or iTunes or the Apple podcast, you can just search Memic Safety Experts and we'll come up somewhere for you.
Yeah, I listen on Apple Podcasts, so yes, that's you can find it there for sure.
That's where I found your podcast, which is pretty cool too.
Yeah, we're everywhere, anywhere and everywhere. Yeah, fantastic, awesome. So last couple questions here for you, Peter.
Sure.
Number one, what is your definition of strength?
Ooh, that's a great question. What's my definition of strength? So I feel strength is not just a physical thing, and it's not just a mental thing, and it's not just a spiritual thing, but all three components have to be connected together in order to be strong. So there's a connection between whatever spirituality that you have, but that spiritual connection to your physical connection, your physical strength, and also then the mental strength that you have, because they're truly three separate things, and you can work on each of those things too in order to be really well-rounded to manage just about anything, because you just can't just be physically strong, you can't just be mentally strong, and you can't just have some spiritual strength there. So all three of those things.
For sure. Great. Oh, nailed it. Perfect. Great. No, love it. And then the last question is, what is your true purpose in life, Peter?
Oh my gosh, another great question. My true purpose in life. Well, I guess I guess my true purpose in life here, and this will give you a little hint into kind of my background and who I am, but it's to really be the best father and husband that I can be. So my wife and I have been married for 27 years. We've got 5 daughters that range from 26 to 14. They're all over the place. They're awesome. Yeah. We've had, great ups and downs, great ups, great downs throughout the years, but it's really, that's my purpose. And if I could do well at that, then I'll succeed at whatever job or other challenge that comes up in front of me. So yes, you could say that.
Yeah, you're right. Managing 5 daughters, all of which are teenagers or older. Yes, you can handle anything, my friend. Yeah.
Well, but I guess the first one helps prepare you for the next one. So that's
right,
kind of
sure.
it brings us back to preparation for the job at hand, right?
You got it. We went full circle, Peter. I love that. That's fantastic. Awesome. Well, Peter Koch of MEMIC and host of the MEMIC Safety Experts podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate all your time. This was fantastic, and we'll have to do it again. I feel like there's another conversation in here for us to feature another episode here on the Strength for Your Purpose podcast. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me on, Phil. It was a true pleasure. I really enjoyed it, having this conversation, and I really want to continue this. So I do think there's more than just the conversation we had here. So let's do it again. We'll connect.
For sure, definitely. And I want to thank everyone who tuned in, listened, watched, however you took this podcast in today. Thank you so much. And if you found anything valuable here, which I'm not sure how you couldn't, because I know I did, please be a friend and tell a friend. Share this with someone that you believe could get the same value out of this, because we just want to get this information out to as many people as possible so that they can improve the mental, emotional, and physical strength they need to fulfill their true purpose in life. So please share that with people you know, love, and care about. Thank you all for listening, and we will catch you back here next time for another episode of the Strength for Your Purpose podcast. Go make it a great week, everybody.